Good morning everyone, I'm your host of Friendly Tree and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Nina Williams In Depth. Today we're going to look at her move known as Skull Splitter, or currently up forward +1. Before you do anything, of course, as always, just a reminder to make sure you've got your settings all as you want. Make sure you don't have anything unnecessary and you don't have anything that might skew your testing or your practice. Anyway, I'm happy with this. So why is it called Skull Splitter? We can see here it's move number 65, up forward 1. Skull Splitter is the name in the move list. Most people just refer to it as up forward 1, but it is important to point out that this move has had a lot of input changes over time. So for example, in Tekken 4 it was essentially a half circle forward. It was down, back, down, down, forward, +1. Then in Tekken 5 it was back, forward, +1. And you may remember she had a very strong up forward 1 in Tekken 5. Once that was removed later on in the Tekken 5, this became up forward 1, and it stayed that input ever since. So currently up forward 1, it has a very cool input, so she goes like this. Remember, that's pressing up, forward and 1 at the same time, so a diagonal. If you're jumping already, you're not going to get it. If you press the 1 already, of course you're not. Because it's an up forward input, you can do it from crouching too. I like the input. She does the twirl and it's sort of a downward slam, and I suppose that's kind of why they call it Skull Splitter, because it's a downward smack onto the opponent's head, isn't it? You can see here it's a normal hit launcher. On counter hit it doesn't have any additional properties, so it's exactly the same except for a damage increase, and on block it's only -5, so it's very strong properties for what it is. I mean, it's essentially her orbital, isn't it? It may not be an orbital heal like Brian's or Lars or Minnie or Josie's, I guess, but it's akin to being an orbital with similar properties like Farkamurum's or Noctis's, where it's an orbital punch or an orbital chop. This one, as well as being 20 frames startup and only having one active frame, we can see yes, 20 damage, or on counter hit 24 damage. And I mentioned, like any orbital, it goes into a jump state, so it means that it does crush lows on certain frames, and that is from frame 10 onward. So a good way for me to demonstrate this is doing a forward 3 into a down 3. So forward 3 is +6, +7, down 3 is 16. So you can see there I can block it. If I make it +7, if I make it +7, I can't go over that. At +6, I can, showing it's at frame 10 that you can go over lows with this. So that's very valuable to know in my opinion, although it's quite slow for a low crushing move in terms of Nina's moveset. So you need to know the situations you can use it, or yeah, just be cautious I suppose. Now range wise, this move has really good range for what it is. Compared to most orbitals, I think this has phenomenal range if we consider its speed. So we're looking about range about 3.10, and that hits. So that's pretty impressive, isn't it? So yeah, I'd probably do it about range 3. That's about the furthest away I'd do it. But you can, it does reach up to almost 3.10, or 3.10, sorry. So another example of how Nina's range actually can be pretty good in some scenarios. Compare that to something like Brian's orbital. Now there is one catch with this move. Unlike other orbitals, up back 1 and up 1 do not work. So compared to her up forward 4s, which is kind of like an orbital but doesn't launch a normal hit, they can do it in each direction. This one she can only do forward, so she has to jump forward as she does this move. You may also notice that she recovers in crouch, so you're -5 and in crouch, which does limit your options a little bit, but it does mean that you can do a bit of a mind game afterwards. What people generally do is after a combo, they've got a few different options, so you can easily confirm if this hits or not, and then people either crouch cancel into a combo, such as, or they might dash forward, oh I got it wrong, dash forward into a combo, or they might just do something like a while standing 1 or a while standing 4. So she has lots of combo potential from this move. You can do lots of fun things. Okay. Or you can actually do an extra hit there, so you do boom, 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 boom. Oh god. That one. I wish that would be cool. I did the wrong thing anyway. Wow, why's that not hitting? There we go. So it's a pretty cool move as a normal hit launcher that low crushes. So that's pretty cool properties, isn't it? Now if we look at crashing, if we look at stepping, if we look at range and sidestepping it, you can see it's pretty linear really. So you're not really using it to catch people stepping at all. You're using it more as a throw out tool when you don't think they're going to step, or at range. You're using it to go over loads, or you're just using it to throw it out as a safe launcher all the time. But we'll talk more about the application in a moment. Another good property about this move, so it does floor break, but it also causes a spike. So just a reminder for everyone, a spike is different to a bound, where with a bound they can hold back and they can get up quickly. With this one, they can't. So they can just do a quick back rise and that's it. So it really limits the opponent's wake up options if you hit them airborne with this move. They can't do any of the ground techniques here. So they can't tech roll, they can't quick back recovery, they can't quick back roll. They can still do all of these options here though. So for example, they can do a spring kick because they're recovering in face down, feet up. If you do, obviously if you knock them down in a different position, which is a little bit hard to do, this move. Oh, what am I talking about? Let's just do something like that. Okay, let's just do something like that. So obviously they're limited in the same regard as they would be depending on the grounded position they're in, but they cannot do ground techniques. So that means that it does have potential for Oki afterwards. Another thing we'll talk about soon. So remember that. So you can knock them down with this move and you can limit their wake up options, and you can also floor break with it, as well as it being a normal hit launcher. Okay, I don't think there are any other properties about this move that we really need to go through. That's the bulk of it. So remember that it crushes lows, it's very linear, it has good range. Because it's an up forward move, it can be done from crouching, so arguably you could do it into itself, although I don't see why you would unless you anticipate them doing a low that's 15 frames or slower after you've blocked it, because it's neg 5. Yeah, it's a pretty cool move. So let's go properly into the application of the move now. Alright, so how do we use Skull Splitter? Up 4 to 1. First and foremost, it's an orbital, so you can use it just like any other character's orbital. I mentioned the weakness before of you can't really use it in an upward or a backward direction, you have to use it forward. So think of it only as an approaching orbital. That doesn't mean you can't use it on approach. So it's an approaching orbital where Nina approaches, but you can also use it on the opponent's approach. So if you're sort of playing in this range here and you anticipate them backing, or dashing forward, you can catch them on a forward dash with this because you jump forward quickly and knock them down. Because of how linear it is, you just need to look at their movement patterns and what kind of moves they might do. But generally what you can do, you can use it on their approach to knock them down. And while you're doing this, you are at risk of being jabbed for a float, but you can go over their highs. And if they block it, hey, it doesn't really matter, does it? At least you've got it in some shape or form. At only -5, it has some options. So I guess first and foremost, we do use it as a launcher. So because of its speed, it's not really great for mix-up potential. We don't have anything too threatening for a low that we could mix it up with. Opposed to, I guess you could do a wipe the floor or an up forward 1, but they're both, that's in the range of reactable. That's definitely reactable at 26 frames. And if you're doing a wipe the floor not from crouching position, then it's reactable too. But doing it from a crouching position, of course, it's only 20 frames, and then that's 26 frames, so there is a 6 frame gap there, so it's not really a true mix up there unless you delay the input, but it's too slow to really be used in a 50-50 like that. So I wouldn't generally use this as a 50-50 tool. I would use this as either just trying to catch their movement as a safe option, because obviously you're not going to be throwing out reverse ivory cutter, up forward 2-1 or geyser cannon all the time to catch their movement, because they're so much more risky than a move that's only -5. But yeah, just be aware, because of its speed, it's not great in that regard, I guess. It is a great strength when you anticipate a low. So if you have someone that does common patterns, it might even just be jab jab into a down 4. So, I mean, that's not a great example, but jab jab into a low. Depending on if they change their timing or what they do, you could read, oh, there's a low coming, I can up forward 1 over it. Obviously, a lower reward, easier option is something like an up forward 3 because it goes into jump state much sooner. But this is if you're going for a higher reward. So just consider what kind of life lead your opponent might have, or how much health they have remaining, and then you could do an up forward 1 and keep it going. Well, and get a huge comeback. Okay, in regards to a launcher, so let's say we've caught them on movement, or I guess you can use it as a punisher too, but you really need to know. So you could use it on like a staggering low. If you know the staggering low is at least minus 26, you can use it as an option. But generally things like an up forward 2-1 is a better option. But let's say we get a combo. What combo routes can we do? And I kind of talked about this before. So a very easy one is just doing a while standing 1, and they did buff this to make it more consistent. And then I drop it anyway because I'm doing a video, and I always drop things when I'm doing a video. And that's decent wall carry for 64 damage, isn't it? You can also do a dash up forward 3, and you're getting a little bit more damage. Those are sort of the fail-safe routes. And I mentioned before that you recover crouching, so you can use a crouch cancel to get greater reward. So for a long time now, well since Tekken 5 really, is it Tekken 5 or Tekken 6? The jab combo has been the way to go. So what you do here is you crouch cancel by tapping up. So if you don't tap up in time, you'll get the wrong move obviously, like you get a full crouch down forward 3, which is the same as full crouch down 3. But you get the timing right, and you can get a down forward 3 too to connect. You can also do things like a quarter circle forward 1, or you can crouch cancel anything, can't you? So you've got a lot of different combo routes, and because depending on the side you are, I guess with the quarter circle forward 1, you just need to realise what axis you're on. You'll see if you do the crouch cancel right, you don't really shift much, and if you're using the up forward 4, you should be able to just do the jab combo juggle consistently on either side. But with things like the quarter circle forward 1, depending on what side you're on, you'll find, yikes, I'm getting worse. Depending on what side you're on, you'll find it easier or harder to get the triple into the tailspin. So other routes that I talked about or demonstrated before was just doing a while standing 4 into a down 2-3. And then you've got good options there. You can also just do a crouch cancel down 2-3, and I'll do something like that. And I'll drop it, of course I'll drop it. But dash sidestep 1. I thought that hit. Oh, come on. Ay, ay, ay. That's not what I meant to say. This is 2-3. So 73. Anyway, lots of damage. So you've got lots of different combo routes you can do here, because you do have plenty of time. I mean, 26 frames, crouch cancel into a 20 frame, crouch cancel into a quarter circle forward works. Yikes. Well, why am I doing this? Yeah. And then of course you can now do things like that as a pretty easy, consistent option. So the pickup off this move is very good, and I should also mention the range. So even if you're hitting this at about range 3, things like the down forward 3, 2 into sidestep 1 will still connect. But do be a bit cautious, because the further away you get, the harder some of these things may be to connect, and you might be better doing like a dash up forward 3, which will be very consistent. Yeah, so that demonstrates the combo potential there. So let's now go on to the Oki. Okay, so I mentioned before that this move causes a spike, which means that none of the grounded techniques will work, but you still have the stand-up techniques. Let's look at forward 3 as an example first. So we knock down, regardless of how many hits we have. Regardless of how many hits we have here, we're about the same position, aren't we? So 2.9 after a back roll, 2.9 roughly. So you don't notice too much of a difference with the range depending on how many combos you've done. You do it after here. Yeah. So you can see it's roughly the same. So let's just say we do this for demonstration purposes. If you do a forward 3, there is the risk of it being minus 14, of course, but it's going to catch pretty much anything they do. So obviously they can stand up and block it, and that's where it's a mix-up here. Front roll, I guess you need to see it. Side roll, boom. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's not going to hit these, but it's not... Okay, it hits that. But it's not going to leave you in a disadvantageous... at a disadvantage. Okay, and so you're going to beat the get-up kicks here, and you're going to counter-hit them for a jump. So that's why this is a pretty good option here. Recovery kick, I'm assuming recovery kick loses. Yeah, sorry, it loses to recovery kick. But the good thing here is spring attack. So I always like options that beat spring attacks. So, okay, there are a few different mix-ups you can do here because you're crouching. And I recommend forward 3 as a common option. I'd say forward 3 or crouch cancel down 2 are really good options to use here. And I've talked about down 2 before and how much I love down 2 as a move. So let's look at down 2. So it whiffs if they wake up backwards. Actually, did we see the frames there? Did it say? It won't, will it? No. But if we record, you can launch, but how much can we launch? Let's try an 18 frame. Okay, so there is risk there, wake up backward, but it beats every other option pretty well. So, for example, if we stand up, then that's the 50-50 you've got with a forward 3. Front roll, we're not going to show that. Side roll. Same sort of scenario. Mid kicks, it's going to beat the mid kicks. Recovery kick, once again it's going to lose. Oh, it beats. Oh, it beats. Because of the crouch cancel, I suppose. You sort of evade it. Cool. I think that might vary from character to character. Spring kick. It evades. So you can see that's not a punish, so they can duck that. But anyway, so it's a good option for beating spring kicks. Now if we go into like a sort of a higher risk, higher reward scenario, so that down to you can see if they back rows, then they can launch you, which is not great. But another thing you could do is you can do an upward 1 into an upward 1, and this is the only scenario I really suggest doing it is for Oki. Like I said, it is technically reactable, but it'll beat most options. It should trade with mid get up kick. Yeah. So that's worth keeping in mind, that it will trade with a mid get up kick. It'll obviously crush. Oh, trades. Oh, sad face. Yeah. So if you delay it slightly, then you'll lose to the mid get up kick, but you beat the low get up kick clean. Recovery kick, it'll beat. And spring attack, I believe you lose. Or you trade. You trade. No, you lose. Oh. I think some characters it trades. I think some characters... Oh no, it's frame 24, sorry. So if I show you, it's frame 24 it trades. There we go. So if you do an up forward 4, you'll see you'll trade with a sprint kick. Which does of course mean that you can do things like a crouch cancel, probably better doing a crouch cancel quarter circle for 1. So you can do different things if you read them doing the spring kick to get a combo. Why did I do that? I think the side step. Oh, you have to side step up. That got on to my next point. They beat me to it. The game beat me to it. Okay, so the next risky thing you do, like I said before, is like a pseudo mix-up. You can do wipe the floor. And obviously this is incredibly risky, but if you've got them scared and they're not reacting to the up forward 1, or they're anticipating a mid for whatever reason, this wipe the floor is going to knock them down, and you're in a pretty good situation there. It'll also hit all the grounded positions. So it's pretty good. And because of the timing, it'll counter hit launch that. It'll counter hit launch the wake up kicks, except for the recovery kick. And then I think it loses pretty easily with the spring attack. Yeah, I think you're at a disadvantage there. I mean, something that's needs 37 on block, yeah, you recover pretty slow. But those are some of the options. The other thing, and this is the always underrated option I think, is don't underestimate just standing there. So we talked about the positioning before and how it knocks back about the same each time. So let's say from this position they do a wake up mid kick. It's very easy for you to whiff confirm. Well, yeah. And then a recovery kick. And last but not least, spring attack. So don't underestimate the power of doing nothing for Oki. As in just knock them down and see what they do. Especially if you know they're an aggressive player, because that's where the big reward's going to come from here. But I mean that's mixed with an instant 4-4-3. But if they stand and block, you get launched. So it depends what you want to do there. Yeah, but that's a quick rundown of the Oki you can do there. I've got one more little thing I'm going to talk about. And sorry, I don't have anything crazy specific here. But let's look at this. So this is a bit of an online trope. Where people do... Oh, that's a bit slow. Sorry, I need to recover it. I need to record it on width. So if you do this on the right side, God, you can definitely use it to make a lot of things with, and I did it with the most linear move possible, but I've totally had it make things with. And I guess jabs, so if someone's trying to jab check you, it can be a good option. But just remember, you're locked to the direction, so on the player 2 side you can side step right +2 for a bit more evasion, but on the player 1 side you can't. This is not something I commonly use myself, but I have seen a lot of people use it, and I've had it hit me with quite a bit of success. But you gotta choose your moves. Yeah. So I mean, at -5, the opponent's at +5, depending on what they might do in that situation. Obviously, there's a lot you'll beat you, so it is risky. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So, yeah, it's an option you can use, but I wouldn't rate it as some kind of godlike tech. I'd consider it a bit of online tech for you, just to keep in mind, not only for using it, but just for versing it. So keep that in mind, guys. Anyway, I think that's my main discussion about how to apply this move. It's not a move I use much, but to be honest, it's low risk. So I may as well use it more because it's low risk, high reward, and sometimes Nina struggles to get things that are low risk, high reward. I do use it a lot for Oki though, in different shapes and forms. So that's probably how I prefer to use this move, but as an advancing orbital, it definitely has its place, and as one of her few safe mid launches, it absolutely has its place. It's just a bit slow, but that's okay. At times you just need to accept that it's going to be blocked. Good players are going to be able to stand and block it a lot of the time, unless you've got some kind of conditioning or some kind of awareness of their movement and attack patterns, where you're likely going to be counter hitting them or just getting them on a forward dash, a dash block. Ooh, another online trope, isn't it? But those are my main uses of this move anyway. Anyway, let's go on to the summary. Nina's Skull Splitter, or up forward 1 as the input is in Tekken 7, It is a 26 frame mid-normal hit launcher. Pretty much it's an orbital palm. So it low crushes from frame 10. It's a normal hit launcher, it's only -5 on block, and Nina recovers crouching. As well as being a normal hit launcher, it's also very good for Oki as it causes a spike knockdown, limiting the options and giving you lots of mix-up potential. It has very long range, reaching to about range 3.10. However, it's very linear, so it can be stepped in both directions. Being a safe launcher, it has some very good properties obviously, and it's a move that you should consider using. However, the speed of it kinda limits its usage a little bit, and that's why I recommend using it for trying to catch the opponent's movements, opposed to using it for a mix-up necessarily. There are situations you can use it as a mix-up, and of course being only -5, if they block it, it's not a big deal for Nina. There are some things you can do after it's blocked, but generally because you're at -5 you do have to respect what the opponent's doing. Maybe just try and backdash or step block. I do like using this move for Oki a lot, and when I say using it for Oki I mean spiking with it, and it may not necessarily be using a move, but it may just be waiting and seeing what they do and reacting accordingly. Because you recover and crouching, the most common combo routes for this move, or the most rewarding ones, involve using a crouch cancel, which is when you tap up and you drop it. When you tap up into a move. So it's quite important to practice this and get familiar with how to do the crouch cancel. Anyway, what do you guys think of Nina's uf+1 Skull Splitter? Do you use it a lot? Do you like it? Do you think it's a bit too slow? Or what do you think, guys? Do you think the new move needs to be changed at all, or are you happy with how it is? Comment below, let me know, I'm excited to see what you think. Catch you next time.
You win.
What's done is done.